All right.
Youmna, if you are able to, tell us what you are hearing now.
These are bombardments just around our neighborhood.
Israel has threatened Al Jazeera's correspondent in Gaza, Youmna El Sayed, telling her and her family to leave their home or risk being killed.
Oh my God, yes, I need to go down.
We can see a black smoke everywhere from the window. We're talking about 100.
Youmna, if you are able to, tell us what you are hearing now.
Youmna El Sayed is a Gaza-based correspondent for Al Jazeera. Since 7th of October, she has reported on Israel's continuing bombardment of Gaza while navigating what has become one of the deadliest stories for journalists to cover in history. In late October, her family was personally threatened in a phone call from the Israeli military. These days, she's in Denmark to talk about her work, experiences, and the situation in Gaza. And welcome to another talk about Palestine and Snak on Palestina. First of all, I'm very grateful that you took the time to join our little Danish show here, and we're very happy to have you here, so welcome.
Thank you, Omar. I'm very delighted to be here among you guys.
Thank you very much. So, when did you arrive here in Denmark?
Just last night.
Last night?
Yes.
So you must be a little bit tired. How did Denmark treat you until now, these few hours you were here?
So far so good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's your first time here?
It's my first time, yes.
Okay, so but welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. How many years you actually been in Gaza? Because I know you have an Egyptian background. And how come you ended up being a journalist to begin with?
So I first moved to Gaza in 2014, after the 2014 war on the Gaza Strip. It was a little bit strange because how I moved to Gaza, because my husband, who is a Palestinian with only one passport, which is a Palestinian passport, went to Gaza to visit his family and to check on them after the 2014 war. We were married and we had settled in Egypt, in Cairo. But then, like it has ever been for Palestinians, the difficulty of movement through the Rafah border, he actually got stuck there and he was not able to come back to Egypt. So I had two children, a 2-year-old and almost a 3-year-old. I was pregnant and we were like 6 months apart. And there was no way that he was able to come out of Gaza. It's usually very difficult, and you have to register your name on a list on the border that takes minimum a year for your turn to come to be able to travel. So I decided to go into the Gaza Strip myself with my children to my husband. And that's when I first arrived to Gaza on the 1st of December of 2014. That was the only way that we could be together again. And since then, I have been living in the Gaza Strip.
Okay. Were you a journalist then?
I was not a journalist. Journalism was not part of my educational background or academic education or anything. It was just a passion, a dream that I always had. I barely heard about outside this world, this territory that has been under ongoing Israeli siege for so long, with a lot of difficulties and measures. You know, the basic rights of any human being, Palestinians in Gaza have been deprived of. All this was a motivation for me to actually be a journalist, to start my dream and my journey in Gaza, because I believe that journalism is actually about being a voice of the people who are unvoiced and who cannot speak to the rest of the world about their challenges and their sufferings that are imposed on them by other people.
How was Gaza before the 7th of October? How was life then with your family and so on? I know, of course, Gaza has gone through many things, but still there's a big difference between life, I can imagine, before the 7th of October and what happened after. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's very strange because like when I tell you that I was very happy in Gaza. Gaza is a place where there is a lot of peace, like internal peace that you feel inside. It was a place where I decided with my husband that we want to raise our children in. I gave birth in Gaza despite all the difficulties and challenges, of course, because I was not allowed, or I was not able to travel because of all the measures to give birth back in Cairo among my family. So I had to give birth there alone with my husband and my children. But it was not a place that we wanted to leave. Gaza for us is our land that we wanted to improve. It has a lot of beautiful, we lived a lot of beautiful memories in Gaza. We had our home, and then we had another home that we made. We had a very settled life despite all the military escalations, despite the ongoing siege, the difficulty of traveling. You know, like a simple dream of any family to travel for a summer vacation. That is not available in Gaza. That is very difficult. Even if you have the money, the restrictions are immense, and the measures are unpredictable. It was always a challenge, always hoping that these challenges, these measures would ease the siege on Gaza, the Israeli siege that has been imposed since 2007, would actually be lifted. Then everyone would have a very peaceful and simple and easygoing life in Gaza.
And did you experience previous attacks from the Israelis before the 7th of October?
In Gaza? Plenty. The thing about Gazans as well is that not every military attack, we actually call it a war because of the significance of wars that when a real war starts. So, unlike other places in the world, we just call them military escalations. We actually differentiate. While in the real world, they're all wars against Gaza. Because in these wars, infrastructure is destroyed, civilian homes are bombed, civilians are killed, dozens are injured. So at the end, it's a war. This is what a war is. But we have this privilege of differentiating because we don't want to say that we're in a war after a war. But almost every 2 years, there is an actual war. But between the 2 years, there are dozens of escalations and bombardments.
But they even call themselves mourning the lawn, the Israelis.
Yes. Yeah. So, but at Gaza, as Gazans, we don't want to call ourselves that we keep on living on wars. We don't want to spread that among our children. We just want our children to grow with, amount of peace, that Gaza is a place where we can live and prosper. How
soon did you realize that when the Israelis, they attacked after the 7th of October, that this was something different or on a different scale, that the normal massacres they implemented on the people in Gaza? How soon did you feel that, okay, this is something else?
From the first day.
From the first day.
Once Israel decided to respond to the infiltration and the attack of 7th of October, it was completely different. The entire world could see that from just the statements that were made at that time. And the statements began with, we're going to cut all water supply on the Gaza Strip. We're going to cut electricity supply on the Gaza Strip. And then you're actually cutting it off of the two basic necessities of life, water and electricity, energy. And then the indiscriminate attacks, the indiscriminate bombardments. It was not, the bombardments were not targeted on, Israel started this war by saying that it's a war against Hamas and Hamas fighters. From the first attack, it was an attack on civilians, on residential towers, on residential buildings, among civilians.
So they ran amok from the very first moment. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Just the statement saying that they're going to cut the water and energy. That's, you're actually this is the first evidence that you're declaring a genocide against the civilians living in that place.
I can imagine that you've seen more than most people. Are there any specific incidents that, in a way, is stuck in your mind?
It's been a while since I left Gaza, but I still, for example, I can't sleep. I have very severe problems with sleeping because there are some pictures that I can't get out of my head. And this is like one of the questions that people would ask just so simply like that. But it's not that they bring it back to my memory. It's there. It never goes away. And just trying to put it like right there in front of my eyes to think about just deeply, it really deeply affects me. I mean, there are incidents that I've always said that a human being can't bear to stand. And I've seen these incidents, and I have been in them, and I am a human being at the end. And I think that I can't get over them because I can't still bear to overcome what I have seen, what I've lived. I know that you'll tell me we've seen a lot of pictures on our screens, on social media, on TV, but the reality is so much more scary, so much more terrifying. And living in that terror, living in that tragedy that is unfolding every single moment is completely different than just watching it from the screen. Omar, it's completely on another level. And that's what people don't really understand. They think that the tragedy of what the people in Gaza are going through is just what they see on television. Although they can say that what we're seeing is already terrifying. It's much more worse in reality on the ground.
I can imagine that's also one of the reasons why, for example, when I talk to people about this, and many people I know, they know what's going on, but they don't want to look into it. They say, no, I can't watch this, and it's better not to. I know it's bad what's going on, but I can't look at the dead kids. I can't look at the horrors and all that. But this is why I can't understand this way of thinking, because people down there, they're forced to be in it. So at least the least thing people can do is to look to see what's going on. That's my point of view, actually.
I actually think that this mentality that people are living with, that no, we can't see because it's really bad. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to hurt your emotions or your feelings just by watching a little bit of the reality that people, other civilians, are living on a daily basis. These children that are dying, if you actually take the time to watch with your heart how these children are being killed and bombed and injured, and look at your own kids, that is going to be completely different for you. Because if you imagine that child has the same right as your child to live and to survive, and that your child could be in the shoes of this child, you will have a completely different perspective about what's happening.
Yes, I believe by closing your eyes, you are participating because you are allowing it to happen. So if more people will actually open their eyes to what's happening there, maybe we wouldn't be in this horrible situation now for the Palestinians. You talked about how the Israelis were calling specific journalists and asked them to leave Gaza, threatening them that they will kill them or their family if they didn't, something that also happened to you. What happened in your case, and was this the reason why you decided, you and your family, finally to leave Gaza?
Well, Israel first called the entire population to leave Gaza. It happened I still remember that day like it happened yesterday. It was around 2 a.m. local time in Gaza. And we started getting news and people speaking about messages that have been sent to UN staff in the Gaza Strip by the Israeli army, telling them to evacuate in the upcoming hours, the next few hours, at about 7 a.m. in the morning, to evacuate Gaza City and the north and to go south. So the messages first were just made to that amount of people or that class of people. And then the news quickly circulated among everyone. It became obvious hours later when the Israeli army started throwing leaflets on the north in Gaza City and telling people to evacuate south. I evacuated that day in the next few hours south, not knowing where to, not knowing what to take, how long this will be. It was completely terrifying, feeling that, are we actually getting expelled? We are getting forcibly expelled. What can you take for your family when you know such news at 2 a.m. and in the next 3 or 4 hours you're expected to leave your home with your kids and just go head south? You don't know where to. And again, we're talking about 2.3 million people living in 365 kilometers. So that's not really a lot of space. And you're asking half of the population to empty half of that region to the other half. So it actually does not make sense. It like realistically, it doesn't make sense. There are not even enough places. Let's say every 2-3 families will stay in a home. It's not even enough. Okay, and Gaza is not a place with lots of hotels or shelters or anything like that. The only hotels that we had were in the Gaza City itself, and before that happened, they were all bombed already.
And people were bombed on the way.
Yeah,
leaving,
that's when the first day they were asked to evacuate, and then it got even worse and worse because the Israeli army would target civilians trying to heed for their orders for people to head south. So if I'm afraid for my family and I'm heeding to these orders to head south, and then you actually target them on their way, it was terrifying for the majority of the civilians. I mean, the Israeli army in their tanks deployed on Salahuddin Street, which ties the north to the south, for, I can't even understand or comprehend what reasons they had to tank shell civilian cars, civilian bus, UNRWA bus, civilians on bicycles, civilians on foot, while they're just civilians with some belongings and children trying to make it to the south where they think or believe it could be safer, because this is what the Israeli army itself asked them to do. So it's like it's not leaving a choice for the civilians to survive.
No, it seemed like from the beginning what they actually tried to do to push out the Palestinians out, to make them and have Egypt open the borders and just to get rid of all the Palestinians, to create so much rampage that became unbearable for any Palestinians there.
But the problem, Omar, is that they did not even leave them to cross safely to the south.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not talk about we did not even get to the border yet.
No.
Just crossing south. It was not even a safe passage. They every single day they said, we're going to open from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And every single day there was a targeting for civilians among those hours while they were crossing. And again, they're crossing in very narrow roads that the Israeli army had made. Their tanks were deployed along the roads, and their soldiers behind sand dunes that they actually created, while speaking to the civilians with mics, while being deployed behind those barriers that they made, okay, and pointing their guns on the civilians I don't know what they're afraid of. What is all that threat that the Palestinian civilians possess? Civilians unarmed with children trying to cross that passage that they made.
Part of the plan was to create pure slaughter, it seems.
Pure slaughter, humiliation, dehumanization to the civilians in Gaza.
Yeah. How systematically do you also believe that the Israelis, they deliberately target the Palestinian journalists? And how soon did you realize, after the 7th of October, how dangerous it was to be a journalist in Gaza and also for your families?
Well, it was very obvious, Omar. Like, from day one, the attacks on the journalists were indiscriminate. And I think that for Israel, this is the mentality that Israel deals with in Gaza. Every single person who is in Gaza, who is a Palestinian, is a legitimate target for the Israeli army. Whether they're civilians, whether they're journalists, whether they're defense teams, whether they're medical staff, we're all legitimate targets. But journalists caused a problem for Israel because Israel succeeded in preventing all international journalists from entering Gaza. And as international journalists, they gave up on their right to enter the Gaza Strip, to investigate and to cover this genocide. But Palestinian journalists, their motive was so much higher than just their professional work. We knew that we are the only way that this world can see what is happening in Gaza. And we are the only people that can report on these war crimes and atrocities that are being practiced systematically against our people. And despite the Israeli army trying to, I guess, scare us or stop us from ongoing with our work by killing our colleagues one after another, journalists who were killed in their homes, they were bombed with their families. Their families who were bombed while they're outside in the field. The journalists who were targeted while they're in the field shooting or filming or reporting. Numerous numbers, scary numbers. We're talking about over 130 journalists, not just killed. These are the ones that are killed, and others are in injuries, in very critical injuries. Like, people think that, Omar, when they hear injuries, it's just an injury. It's like an arm injury or a leg injury or a head injury. No. When we speak about injuries in Gaza, it's on another level. It's injuries that cause you a displacement for the entire time of your life. Okay? Or a damage that stays with you for your entire life.
It's 2 arms, 2 legs, or even worse.
Exactly.
Don't mind me asking you about this, but can you tell me also about how this affected your family, your husband, and especially your kids? How are they doing today?
Since the first time, Omar, I got the call from the Israeli army, the call was made on my husband's phone, and it was a clear call from a private number where an officer identified himself as an IDF officer. He told my husband, "We know who you are. Take your family and leave your home. Otherwise, your lives are in danger." That time, we were back in our apartment in the Gaza city because we couldn't survive in the south with the lack of drinking water. It was too much. And the bombardments in the south were non-stop, just like the north in Gaza city. So it was very simple for us. We're going to die anyway. So let's return back home and die with dignity in our home, where we can find at least some water, because I had a water well in our building, so we had some drinking water. It's like the worst feeling when especially when you live that feeling for the first time, when your child asks for water and you can't give him water, just water, you know? We made that call and we went back home to Gaza City. And when that call came a couple of days later, it was really terrifying. My kids, for the first time, I felt that I was the main threat to their lives. I possessed danger to my own children and to the other neighbors and families that were with us in this building. I will not forget the day that my 12-year-old Aline, when this call happened, she screamed at me and she said, "We're going to die because of you. They're going to kill us because of you." And to be in that position as a mother, it's like you as a parent, all you want is to protect your children. But to feel that now you are the sense of danger towards them, you are possessing that danger and that threat to their lives, is like the worst feeling I've ever had. I can't forget that moment. I was terrified, and at the same time, I didn't know what to do. We couldn't go out, we couldn't leave our home because the bombardments were non-stop. They were completely non-stop. I thought, should I sleep in a different room? Should I be somewhere else? Should I, I don't know where to go. And I don't want to be the reason for them getting killed because of me. So turning that role of the journalist, the reporter of the truth, to be the person who possesses a threat or danger on his the most beloved people's lives, for him, it's like the worst feeling that I had to live and experience at that time. And now, after that, of course, a couple of days later, the Israeli army was just 20 meters away from my building, on another building called Mushtaha Tower. And they started shooting at our windows with sniper bullets. And it was like, can you just snipe people like that in their building? Like, you can kill all of us. You can instantly kill us all. So it was extremely crazy and then terrifying. And they called us that day to leave the building for everyone. There were 6 other families with us in our building, and they told everyone to leave quickly. And we got out quickly. We drove in our cars, and while we driving out of our building, they were still shooting at us while we were in the car, just trying to escape. You know, you're running for your life. You're literally running for your life. Sometimes we just used to say these words, but living them is totally another level.
Yeah. My father, when he told me about the day they escaped Palestine in Haifa, they jump into the car. There were shootings. They were driving fast and a lot of shootings, and one of the suitcases fell off. And my father, he was 8 years, and he was shouting to his father, "Yeah, stop the suitcase!" And the father just, drive, continue. And this is one of the moments he remembered from the Nakba, that looking back and seeing this suitcase opened on the ground and all the clothes fell out on the ground. Yeah.
I'm sure this is something he can never forget.
No, unfortunately, Allah Alhamdulillah, he's not with us anymore. But there was one of the images that stuck with him. I'm happy to hear, Alhamdulillah, that you and your family are safe now. You deserve it. Now that you're traveling around the world, talking about the Gaza, how do people react? And is it possible to open their eyes? People who did not understand what was going on before, maybe.
Omar, as a Palestinian from Gaza, me as a reporter in Gaza, I felt a lot of guilt when I came out of Gaza. But I truly had to choose between saving the lives of my children or to continue reporting. And I knew that maybe if I did stay there, I would be killed at the end. Mm-hmm. But I would not just lose my life, it would be also the lives of my children. Yeah. And that's why I decided that, yes, I came out of Gaza. I did what I could inside Gaza. Mm-hmm. And there are dozens of other journalists who are still in there. They're doing an amazing job day and night. With their only motivation is their loyalty to their people and to their land. Mm-hmm. But more people, those people who find it heart-wrenching to watch, just to watch, mm-hmm. they need to open their eyes. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is the only thing that can make me feel good about myself again, mm-hmm. that I'm still fighting for Gaza, mm-hmm. that I'm still trying to reach these people. I'm still trying to speak to the humanity and to the conscience that they have mm-hmm. as human beings, mm-hmm. that they need to open their eyes to the reality of this mm-hmm. genocide. It can't be that people can't get numbed now because it's not over. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of details that people don't know about and do not realize. They don't realize it's not just about this genocide. It's not just about over 34,000 people who have been killed. 200 days, Omar. This is 201 days. Mm-hmm. This has never happened in history before. Mm-hmm. And tens of thousands injured. Mm-hmm. And people like living in dire conditions. People need to wake up to these realities. Mm. The Palestinians are people, are civilians who deserve to live like any other nation in this world. Mm. This is our legitimate right. It's our legitimate right that our children survive and that they go to their schools and that they feel safe. It's our legitimate right for medical treatment, to live with dignity. We cannot be deprived of all these legitimate rights, and people cannot just live their lives normally, ignoring that this is happening. It can't be. And all these governments that are still supporting Israel, either by weaponizing it or funding it, and speaking about being first world countries with democracy and the respect to freedom of speech, respect of human rights, all these claims that they have been lecturing third world countries with for so many years, and dealing with complete double standards when it comes to Gaza and its people. This has to change. And I know that I can't change this alone, but at least my voice can make some noise. It can, through other people, make a difference, even if a slight difference.
Yeah, and I think exactly to what you're saying, that people need to realize that Palestinians deserve this right like anyone else. And I think, unfortunately, despite all the interest of power and money that is in the region and controlling the region, which the West are trying everything they can to do, I think one of the reasons why the public in the West, they need to start to see the Palestinians to begin with as human beings. There's an unbelievable great racism in Europe today, which was not always there, especially in Denmark. For example, talking about my father again, when he came here to Denmark in 1966, the Palestinians, when they first came, they were treated as rock stars and celebrities. There was something special. Even the word Palestinian in Danish has been giving this beautiful, which I believe is the most beautiful letter in the Danish vocabulary. When you say Palestinians, this is the one we use. So I thought that was always I always thought about it like a badge of honor or something, and a proof of hospitality and respect. That's how it was those days. They used to appreciate the Palestinians back then, being some rare species, interesting and fascinating. But it's not like that anymore. It completely changed. Now we are looked upon as subhumans by many. And I think this is something that has been going on for the last many decades, how the dehumanization of Muslims and Palestinians. And this is the reason why they are allowed to do what they do today.
And you know something, Omar, I've always been thinking about this. A lot of Western countries, they'll tell you that, even Arab countries, by the way, Palestinians want to take refuge in our countries. They want to come and they want to settle. They want to take our places, or they want to take they want to populate in our lands and everything. And it's always like a lot of refugees, a lot of Palestinian refugees and so on. These same people, same governments who are saying so, did not think for a minute that this is happening because Palestinians are forcibly being displaced from their land, because you have allowed another nation and another state to be formed on their land and to expel them from their land, to take their rights, to take their resources, to take their space in their own lands. And now you're complaining about the Palestinian refugees and populations in different lands. Well, give them back their lands. And they will live there, because we love Palestine. We love Gaza. We love the West Bank. We love Jerusalem. Just let us live freely in our lands. We're going to flourish. We're going to prosper. And we're going to build it. We're going to rebuild it. But just give us the chance. You can't expel us and take everything that we once owned and give it to someone else and then claim that we're trying to take refuge in your land.
Yeah, this is one big part of the struggle is for people like you. Now you came out and you, with all your experiences, to make people aware actually what's happened, what's going on. Another thing is, and this also helps breaking down the Zionist narrative that which most of the West has been raised with. They have literally been raised with the Zionist narrative, and this is what they believe in. This is what they were taught in school and movies and so on, and systematically also away from all the way, government schools and so on. They have been raised with a certain narrative, and this is what needs to be broken down. And especially also to, first of all, to see Palestinians as equal as themselves. This is the part of the big struggle to come to this point, I believe. And I think this is, when I see people in Gaza and the West Bank, they're saying, how can the world be silent? What's going on with us? Why nobody is doing anything about it? Where are the people of the world rising up? We see more and more people going to the street, but there's a reason why not everyone goes to the street. So there's a long struggle ahead.
And people also, one more thing, they need to understand something that's very important, because this has been something that is like a weapon that has been used so long. Every single time you speak about Israel, you're anti-Semitic, the anti-Semitism. I just want to say something that's very important for the people of the world to know. There is a huge difference between Judaism and Zionism. In Palestine, there has always been Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Judaism is a religion of God. We believe in it as Muslims, as Palestinians. There are Palestinian Jews, Muslims, and Christians. It does not matter. Zionism is the difference. So do not mix it all together. Do not say that the hate is for Jewish or Judaism or for Jewish people. No. Judaism is a religion that we respect and we believe in. It's a religion of God. It's a holy religion. But Zionism is not Judaism, and it's completely different, and the ideology is different.
And not until recently, actually, this is a barrier that's been broken down also since the 7th of October, that people actually dare to speak about this now. Every time somebody went out and criticized the Zionists, they were attacked by being an anti-Semite. But also listening to you saying this, when you approach this matter, and I feel no hate or despise at all, and this is what I believe also symbolizes the people in Gaza, And following from a distance the horror and the despair and the death, is also we see a lot of beauty and patience and steadfastness from Reza, which are huge inspiration how to live a life worth living. Actually, Reza has been an inspiration for all who wants to see. I believe many have lost their lives, and in the matter of saving humankind. And I don't know if I'm romanticizing it a bit, but this is how I see it. And many people see it. Many people are inspired. We even see thousands of people around the world converting to Islam because of the steadfastness of the people in Gaza and how they stick to religion even in their darkest hour.
Because the entire world has abandoned Gaza from day one. And it has abandoned their people and the Palestinian people. So the Palestinians have only one way to keep their resilience, and that's their belief and their faith in God. This is the only thing that is still keeping them steadfast until this day. And people should not get used to the fact that Palestinians are getting killed every day and they're still ongoing. You can still see pictures of them smiling and children playing. No, it's because they cherish life. Because they cherish life, Omar. Doctors are working in Gaza, barely functioning hospitals, 24 hours in the 24 hours. They're working without getting paid, without getting rest, without getting enough food or drink, without having the adequate equipments and medications and supplies that they need. The people are helping one another because they cherish life. This is what it means to actually cherish and honor lives. They're not leaving their patients and their injuries to die. They're doing whatever they can to save their lives. And I've been inside these hospitals and I've seen it with my own eyes, the enormous struggle and suffering for the doctors and nurses in Gaza hospitals. That itself is a professional resilience that should be taught among the world. You want to see resilience? Look at the Palestinian people. Look at how much they cherish life, how much they love life, and they're clinging to it with whatever little that they have. This is the respect, the real respect of humanity, and the real respect of a human life. This is what it means.
I believe there will only not become a general respect in the world before it becomes a part of history, I believe, because the world continues to make the big mistakes they do and treat people the way they do. So I'm sure it's a respect that will be served for the Palestinians for the future, but not now. Only among all of us who fight for Palestine, and you, especially you, as yourself, who's become, I would say, you are a knight in armor. Like I know also your grandfather. He was a war hero in the 6th October War. So you're walking in his footsteps somehow. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. It's the least that I can do for Gaza.
Yeah. What do you think? What's going to happen to Gaza now? Do you have hope? Will the Palestinians eventually, in the near future, be free, get justice?
I believe that justice will come, no matter how long it takes. And everyone who has been complicit in this genocide, there will be a day that they will pay for their complicity. This I believe. But I also know that, unfortunately, in this unjust war, in this unjust world that we live within, and the double standards that are being imposed by everyone or all these strong powers of this world, it will take a lot more sacrifice from the Palestinians until they get back with their own power, their legitimate rights and their freedom. But it will come because it's a just cause. So at the end, if we really believe and we really have hope, and I still do, justice will win at the end. This is the only reason why we continue to survive, Omar. For me, this is the only reason why I continue to survive. And for many Palestinian people, it's just there. It's in our fate. They will tell you, this is our story. This has been our history. This is our present. But in the future, justice will come. We will get our justice. You can't defeat a people with this fate.
No.
You can't defeat them.
No, this is, I think many people, they understand now, this is until the end. And not just people in Palestine, people around the Palestine. This is not going to stop until Palestine will...
And honestly, I don't know how much more it will take for this world to realize that Israel and its government going from plan to another, from claim to another, from allegation to another, and failing in every single allegation, every single claim that it makes against Gaza hospitals, against the regions, how it has separated Gaza. Oh, we're going to completely take over Hamas and the Palestinian resistance in the north and in Gaza City. And then they have completely failed to do that. They have completely failed to free one Israeli captive in Gaza without a deal. And then the south, the central part first, Zawaida and Deir al-Balah, and then the south in Khan Yunis. And now the last spot is that 64 kilometers square that is remaining in the entire Gaza Strip, Rafah, which 3/4 of it is just tents. Can you even, like, sometimes you just feel like, don't these people look at the geography? Don't they have any satellite pictures to actually get back to before they actually, I'm not talking about the Israelis, I'm talking about other governments that are actually supporting these claims. Don't they just look for like 5 seconds before they believe these claims and allegations at how at least the geography of this place, of this area is, and how it is completely covered with tents, and what it means to invade Rafah, land invasion. Like, I don't understand how they do not realize that that last spot, 65, if you were from 365 kilometers, 301 kilometer, you did not succeed in doing anything. So you have not the last 64 kilometers. This is where you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
You're just going to slaughter more and more civilians. And every single government that is silent about this and has the power to stop this is complicit in this genocide, just like Israel.
You knowing the Palestinian mentality more than most, especially in Gaza, can the Palestinians, do they have it in them, in the mentality when Palestine one day is free, to live among the people who used to be the Israelis and forgive them?
When Israel murders every single person of your family, and you grow up with that pain as one survivor, how will you look at them? When Israel started this war, it claimed that it is defeating or fighting against Hamas, its fighters, and the Palestinian fighters. But it has succeeded in forming an entire generation of fighters against Israel by this genocide.
Yeah. Your plans for the future now, you and your family? Will you continue to work as a journalist, and what is your future projects?
The problem, Omar, is that another part of the many parts that this world does not realize about Palestinians is that we have no settlement in our life. We have no stability, and we're just stuck there. We are in the unknown, going to the unknown. I have an Egyptian passport, but my husband doesn't. He's a Palestinian. We're taking refuge in Egypt now, but once the war ends, he has to go back to Gaza, and I can't take my children there.
Okay.
So this is where we separate.
He can't stay in Egypt?
He can't stay in Egypt because he doesn't have a residency. Because Palestinians who are taking refuge and shelter in Egypt now are not granted a residency. So they can't travel, they can't work, and they can't do anything in Egypt except just live there.
Yeah.
So Palestinians have been expelled from their lands, and they're just in Egypt now, those who have managed to get out of Gaza without any plans or certainty of how the future will be. Until now, the children who are in Egypt next year, unless Egypt comes up with a law that permits these Palestinian children from Gaza to enter schools, will not be able to go to school unless they have some kind of regulation that is just made for them, imposed for them to be able, after they have already, they have lost a full academic year. This year, the entire children of the world have gone to school, and they have graduated from high school, except for the children of Gaza.
So this is one of the post-damages the war or the massacre also does, is it breaks up families. It puts them in situations where they are forced to break up somehow, and I pray that you find your way in your family. I know it, or in my case, my father's family, they couldn't bear it. Also, it broke up their family. And this is what happens for many, living around the world without ever seeing family members. You have never seen them once because of this was the reason of the Nakba. I can't imagine what's going to happen now for thousands of people now. I hope your family is going to stay tight and safe, and I'll pray for you all. So, Inshallah. And thank you so much for coming here. And I know you have a tight schedule, so I'm not going to keep you much longer, and a lot of more people to serve to listen to what you have to say. So thank you a lot.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you.
I'm sending a message to the world. Please, before you judge us, before you say that we are terrorists, I want you to make sure that you see the reality and the truth from all sides. Do not just take the Western media and go with it. Do not believe the Israeli messages and the Israeli side of the story without seeing our side. As you can see now, the building has been brought down.